You know, in our gospel this evening, in the first reading, we see from Genesis really two people that are a part of this. We see Abraham and we see his son Isaac. Now, most of the time when this passage is preached on, the conversation really revolves around Abraham, who willingly, not willingly, but at least reluctantly, although you don't know, Isaac could have been one of those kids. But Abraham says, Father, if this is what I must do, okay. And he accepts to sacrifice his son. But as scripture scholars in the early ages of the church, the ancient fathers of the church, looked at this and reflected on it, they said, you know, we didn't look at Isaac enough. I mean, it's all well and good for Abraham to be willing to sacrifice his son, his only son. But what about Isaac? How did he feel about this? How did he think, as his father was about to sacrifice him in the place of a ram? To do something as violent and as unloving as that. And what came to the early scripture scholars and the fathers of the church was that Isaac really was an example of the love of Christ, who willingly accepted to give his life for the sake of others. Now, in the reality of Scripture, this story of Abraham and Isaac is about the end of human sacrifice in the early Hebrew nation. So it's really not about that. But as the fathers of the church looked at this, as the early theologians looked at this, they said, you know, we see something very deep here. It's beyond that. It calls us to reflect on the profound love of God, who in Abraham, in obedience to God, says, even though I hate this, I will do it. And his obedience is rewarded by stopping it at the last minute. But Isaac, probably the age of some of our young people right here, who says, if this is what I have to do, I will do it. He willingly accepts out of love to offer even his own life. Now, we're used to seeing this in some areas. Athletes that are willing to play while they're injured for the sake of the team. People that are willing to do even what's difficult for the sake of the other. Parents and grandparents that are willing to sit up at night with a sick child and still get up and go to work in the morning. People that are willing to give their patience, their understanding, even in days when it's really difficult. That's fine for Abraham, but what about for Isaac? And he's offered to us as an example of the sacrificial love of Christ. I say this on this evening when you'll be admitted to the elect. Those of you who have been preparing will be admitted to the elect, and we're asking you to look to this community and to see in this community examples of that kind of love, of people who have followed Christ, who continue to follow Christ today, and who show it in their families, who show it in their friends, who show it among those people who together with them commit their lives to serving others. That's who you choose to belong to. By being admitted to the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, and Eucharist, you say, this is what I want to be a part of. I want to be a part of this community that so believes in God's love for you that you're willing to live it in the way that you love others. That is the commitment that we ask of you. This is the commitment you celebrate, because this is the commitment we've been living for 20, 30, 40, nobody here over age 40. But we've been living it for a bunch of years. And you know what? It's brought a huge amount of joy into our lives. and we hope it brings joy into your life. In your sacraments of initiation, of baptism, Eucharist, and confirmation, as you receive them on the Easter Vigil, may you find a sense of peace, and above all, a sense of joy in knowing how profoundly you are loved by the eternal God, and the way that you experience it in this community. We want to celebrate that with you, and also give you something that's worth belonging to, a church that genuinely tries to live the gospel every day.